Good evening, 2025 national election candidates, voters, and viewers. Welcome to our second town hall for the 2025 national elections. Candidates, if you have not already, please rename yourself to first name, last name, pronouns if you'd like, and the position you are running for. To briefly go over the protocol, there will be 2 rounds of questions, with each candidate having 1.5 minutes for both questions during each round. The first round will consist of the same question asked to each candidate running for a particular office, answering in a predetermined randomized order. The second round will have a tailored question given to each candidate based on their submitted platform. Vice Chair Yu will signal the remaining time. If a candidate does not wrap up their response by the end of their allotted time, they'll be muted promptly. In addition, there will be an opportunity for candidates who are running for the same position to ask each other questions during the second round after the platform-specific question has been answered. Anyone that submitted questions to the forum prior to the meeting may raise their virtual hand. However, only those first in the queue and pre-approved by the National Elections Committee will be called on to ask their question to the candidate. Each candidate may receive up to one question from another candidate in the same election race and will have a maximum of 1 minute to respond. Finally, the chat will be moderated throughout the duration of the town hall, so please remain respectful should you need to communicate in the chat. We will now begin. So we're going to be starting off with the position-specific questions. If I can have all the chair candidates turn on their cameras and everyone else turn off their cameras, that'd be great. Great. Okay, thank you. So there's one question, as mentioned before, and I'll be saying it once and then putting the question in the chat. So when we continue moving forward, I'll just be calling on your name, not repeating the question. So the chair-specific question is, the national chair is responsible for coordinating and overseeing many moving parts, supporting board members, and ensuring the organization runs smoothly, even when some of this work goes unnoticed. How do you balance managing these essential tasks while providing visible leadership, and what experiences have prepared you for this role? And the first candidate that will be answering this question is Zayed.
Thank you. So, as national chair, I view the importance of being there for every member, and there is a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that not many people get to see. That's something I have experience with as national diversity director. As DD, I've managed the ethics council, I've managed our now 12 caucuses, I've helped do summit work, and I've been around for membership no matter what they need. And that's something I'd like to continue as chair. As chair, I will make myself as much open and as visible as I can. I will make sure to stay active in Slack, stay active on our socials, etc., while also being there for my board, for my NAT staff, because as chair, you need to be around for the people you lead. Because if you aren't visibly there, then you might as well not be. Because as chair, you set a tone, you set a precedent, you show HSDA what HSDA could be. And I want to make sure that HSDA is an organization that empowers others to lead. And so, to do so, I need to be around for our membership. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Zayed. The next candidate that will be answering this question is Rashida.
Thanks, Hannah, for that question. I'm sorry if you guys can hear any commotion. I'm not at home right now. But again, I've served on the executive board this year as communications director. And going back to your question, I think I have extensive experience being able to lead a variety of groups and accommodate to their needs while also being able to exhibit leadership, as I have this year. I've worked to manage my national staff members, social media committee, and the Progressive Teen staff writers, and also serve on the executive board, kind of spearheading initiatives and making sure that national initiatives can get executed. And I think a big part of this is just ensuring that every single member and other leader that I'm in collaboration with is also able to have their voice heard and their initiatives come to life and not ever have a kind of like authoritative voice or like show any signs of a top-down structure within like my own team. So this year I made it a really big priority to be very communicative with my team with weekly or more often meetings, just sending them updates very often and making sure that they're able to provide any input to me whenever necessary. So I think just making sure that everyone's like visions and voices are combined and that it's not only one person's decisions kind of like shining through would be very important and something that I want to continue as chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashida. The next candidate is Parker.
Great. First, thank you, Hannah, for the question. So I think being able to balance tasks goes with having the experience of doing it. And I've served as the Kentucky High School Democrats chair and Southeast Regional Director for the past 2 years. So I've gotten that experience of having to figure out where I need to align myself, and how to make things work behind the scenes and collaborate with other leaders, whether it's at my fellow state leaders, regional staff, and make sure that everyone is being heard and listened to. Something that I've really worked on here in Kentucky is assigning our executive board team specific like jobs on a project. So like last year for our state convention, one person was communicating with elected officials and getting speakers. Another person was doing all the scheduling and all the like small details, catering and all of that. So I think when working as a team, you need to make sure that everyone knows their role and it's clearly defined, even if it's not something that's normally that they're not something that they're not normally doing. Um, and balancing it and making sure that everyone is floating and no one is beginning to drown. And then if someone is beginning to drown, starting to take things from them and be like, how can I help you? And helping them when they need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Parker. I'll now pass it off to Neil.
Thank you, Hannah. I asked all the chair candidates to turn off their cameras and all the vice chair candidates to turn on their cameras. Perfect. Okay. Again, we'll be asking the same question to every single candidate. I'll begin by reading the question. HSDA is a very diverse organization with chapters spanning many different backgrounds and areas. How do you plan to address and support the unique needs of our state and local chapter diaspora? This question will first go to Noam. Noam, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
On my audio cut out. Can you please repeat the question?
Yes,
down here.
and I'll also be putting it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
HSDA is a very diverse organization with chapters spanning many different backgrounds and areas. How do you plan to address and support the unique needs of our state and local chapter diaspora?
Okay. So what I want to do is to lend support to members of the HSDA who are currently not affiliated with the chapter and to areas that don't have a local chapter in order to help them expand the organization and to create new chapters. So, I mean, this is just more of a personal project, but after this whole thing, I plan to start a chapter in the Hudson Valley where I live. And the HSDA needs to create, I think someone mentioned this during the last town hall, like almost like a starter pack for new branches and new chapters. That's a word I forgot last time. And just to make it easier to create new ones and make them actually be able to function normally. That's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Noam. This next question, the same question will be going to Tyler. Tyler, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Thank you so much for the question. And for this specific issue, I've been able to actually do this already and oversee parts of it in my role as National Committee Coordinator. In National Committee, I've been able to support our state leaders for the past 2 years and our caucus leaders as well. And one of the biggest things that has been most effective for me is simply by being available, letting our state, our caucus, and our chapter leaders know that if they need support, they are free and welcome to request a meeting with me, that they're welcome to call, text, email, whatever best suits them. I want to be there to support their individual needs. Not only that, but working with our state leaders and our regional directors to oversee regional needs will better prepare all of our state and caucus, as well as our local leaders. Our leaders on the ground are our most effective tool towards pushing our democratic values, and I believe that by using them and by using these methods, we will be able to reach everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tyler. Reed, you are next up to answer this question. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
No, we can't hear him.
Okay. Sorry, Reed, I don't believe we can hear you right now. Okay. I'm going to skip you and come back to you, Reed. And hopefully by that time, your mic will be working. Isabel, you are next up on the list to answer the question.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. My answer to this question would be just focusing on each individual state by meeting the states where they're at, and especially the local chapters as well. I recognize, as already stated, HSDA is a very diverse organization because of how different our communities are. Like, for example, we have very rural states with primarily rural communities, and we also have very urban states as well. And a lot of these different factors of each states also go different hand in hand with every community. I'm just going to use California for an example. California is very diverse in terms of their natural diversity. Los Angeles is very urban, but then going into Northern California, they're more rural. So what I want to do as your vice chair, and something that I've already worked on as West Regional Director, is to create digital organizing skills for each individual state and catering it to what the state needs. Like, for example, for rural states, I want to focus more on more rural outreach coordination and enhancing our red and rural outreach coordinator's position. For more urban states, I want to focus on more like event building, especially for urban areas that are closer to and more located to state capitals. And overall for each individual state, making sure that every member has access to peer-to-peer engagement. So there is no barrier in between these members that are from rural areas and these members that are from urban areas. Everybody is able to work together and enhance collaboration. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Isabel. Milan, sorry, you are next up on the list. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay, so if we want to stand up to MAGA extremism and build a party that really works for everyone, we need to make sure that we're reaching all communities. So as chair of Maryland and the only state chair running for male VC, something that I've really made a big priority is ensuring that we do have specific strategies for different communities, especially in such a diverse state. So that's something I hope to expand nationally. So some ways that I've accomplished that is through one-on-one meetings with local chapter leaders when they are established, and also ensuring that we do guide local chapter leaders through the whole process of starting their local chapter and everything like that. So to ensure that like our strategy for them is personalized to their local chapter. And something else that I've worked on is like I currently track a bunch of issues within states just because like there is a lot of work to get done, and different states have very specific needs and very specific issues that need to be addressed. And what I also plan to do is establish the Council of Chapter Leaders so that local chapters have a direct voice within HSDA, and we're ensuring that all local chapters are represented. Thank you.
Thank you, Milan. We'll be moving back to Reed if your mic is working.
Everybody hear me now? Awesome. So this is actually a really big part of my platform. My platform is really built around providing resources for local chapters and tailoring strategies to our states. So my first goal here would be to make sure that the vice chairs and the chair are grossly and always available to the members so that they can always come to us for help. But then second is developing strategies that are directly tailored to helping our state leaders and giving them the resources they need. And acknowledging that not all strategies work in every state. We can't use the same strategies in Missouri that we would use in New York. So we need to develop strategies for states like Missouri and for states like New York. And then I have other parts of my platform, such as the Chairs Forum and the Chairs Guide, which would help give toolkits and resources to local chapter leaders created and developed by people from all around the country at all levels of the HSDA to help them get their chapters off the ground and to grow their chapters in their states. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. Renu, you are next up for this question. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Thank you for the question. I just want to introduce myself as Renu Dometti. I'm also the vice chair of the LA Regional Cabinet, and so my answer to the question is mainly going to come from my experience there and the experience of, I know, many other chapter leaders where we felt sometimes a disconnect between other chapters and between other members or leadership itself. And so I genuinely think that toolkits and resources are a great way to help chapters, but I also think that it's very necessary to have direct mobilization of tools and people from a national level through maybe a digitized social media platform or something to ensure that when chapter leaders need something or when they're trying to mobilize or do some grassroots advocacy, that they do have that support that they need from a national level. And especially in LA, in California, we're so diverse. And seeing that diversity in California and applying it to other states is a really important thing that I think I can bring as vice chair as well. And I do think that our power in HSDA comes from our local leadership, comes from you and all the people here. And I really want to make sure that you guys are prioritized and we hear your voice and we listen to you before coming to any decisions ourselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Renu. Santana, you are next up. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Neil. So my name's Santana. I currently serve as a regional director in California, as well as a local chapter leader. So I'm very excited about this question. So thank you. But I have a plan to expand all state chapters within HSDA. We currently have several inactive chapters within our organization. So I would like to ensure that each state has an active chapter, and I will provide the resources and materials necessary for them to ensure their success and expand their membership in their states. I would also like to create a local chapter leaders council, spearheaded by the local chapters director to oversee local initiatives and organizational structures within HSDA. Our local and state chapters are truly the foundation of what makes our organization unique and so powerful, especially with upcoming elections as well. I would also like to expand or create a membership cooperation opportunity for local chapters to get experienced with other local chapters as well. Also creating a grant program to fund our state and local chapters as much as possible so that they have the resources they need to succeed in all of their.
Thank you, Santana. I'll pass it off to Hannah now to ask the communication director specific questions.
Thank you, Neil. If the vice chair candidates can now turn their cameras off and the comms director candidates can turn their cameras on, that'd be great. Okay, so the communications specific question is, in the past year, HSDA members have been featured in Vox, Teen Vogue, PBS, and other local news sites. How can we write off of our successful year and increase our media presence in the future? And I'll also be pasting this question in the chat before I announce the first candidate. Okay, so the first candidate is Ashva.
Yeah, so it's a great thing that this year we're featured in Vox and other news networks, but I think we have to take that one step further. And one of the main ways we have to do that is first even establish a consistent posting pattern on our Instagram and make sure that our platform and our goals are featured on the national level. So for example, this year our posting schedule was quite inconsistent and many members were often disconnected from the events that were occurring. And one way that I'm going to fix this is by posting daily, fully redesigning our website so that organizations, for example, news outlets like Vox, even know what HSDA is. Because currently our website is very slow, and when outside organizations want partnerships or want us featured on something, they don't have the necessary information to do that because they don't have contact information, which hasn't been updated on the website. So I'm looking forward to first redesign all of our infrastructure. And second of all, I want to hear from all the members in HSDA. There are many different viewpoints within HSDA that need to be featured. There are many communities that are being under attack. And one way that I'm going to make sure that we're featured on more local news sites is first establishing the different perspectives that our members have and making sure that they're the ones that are sharing these stories. So I'll send monthly updates not only to our members, but to different partnering organizations so they know what's going on. And that includes news sites as well.
Thank you, Ashva. The next candidate is Fatu.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fatuwada. Thank you so much for that question. I think how we can write off our successful year is to increase our engagement within our social media platforms. So utilizing Reels, utilizing our highlights, which we haven't used at all this year, and using different platforms like X and YouTube to help amplify our voices and amplify our members. Within my platform, I talked about something called Voices of HSDA, where members will be able to post about topics that are important to them so that we can continue writing off our successful year, as well as showing all the things that our amazing members do. Additionally, I would like to start sending out press releases to not only our internal communications, like our monthly newsletters, but also news outlets as well. Something I've done with a previous role for mock trial. We sent out press releases and it increased our engagement on social medias by over 350%. And I can't wait to bring that same initiative and drive for HSD as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatu. I'll now pass it back to Neil.
Thank you, Hannah. I ask that the communication director candidates turn off their camera and the programs director candidates turn on their cameras. Okay. I'll go ahead and ask the question. The programs director has an important role in managing the progress and programming of all task forces. What specific plans do you have to build on our current task force success? This will go to Ankita first. You have 1:30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Ankita, and I am running for your 25-26 Programs Director. Thank you, Neil, for the question. So this specifically is talking about our task forces. Obviously, I think our gun violence prevention task force was the most successful this term, and that was because they engaged people from all across the nation, as well as pushed for awareness and actual legislative advocacy. In something similar that I've done in terms of legislative advocacy is actually talking to them. Like, I feel like what we lack in HSDA is actually talking to our legislators, lobbying at the Capitol, doing legislative advocacy and pushing for bills to be passed. That kind of energy is what should come out of these task forces, specifically because they are issue-based. So my biggest priority would be to get every single task force a plan for the year, and as well as legislators and committees that they want to hit and talk to both nationally and statewide to push legislation that they care about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankita. This next question will be going to Amanda. Amanda, you have 1:30 seconds.
Okay, so as someone who's been in HSDA for a while, I've noticed that something that program, like the task forces really lack, is kind of like consistency. For example, the actual Instagram page hasn't really had that many posts. Like, it's only had probably like 20 since, last year. And I feel as though if we first off advertise our task force applications better, we could gain more applicants. Second of all, I want to have rolling applications instead of like applications that stop at a deadline, because obviously over time some members of task forces are going to be inactive. Third, I want task forces to actually have a quantifiable impact. I want there to be an actual real world impact. For example, if there's an environmental advocacy task force, I want there to be beach cleanups. And I also want, members to build their networking skills by communicating with legislators and other communities and political leaders.
Thank you, Amanda. This question now will be going to Matthew. Matthew, you have 1:30 seconds.
Thank you. So first of all, I'd like to take a moment to point out our incredible task force members that we've had over the past year and over the past 2 years. I was honored to serve as the first task forces coordinator developing this program with our previous programs team from the ground up. This year, we expanded our task forces. We now have 5, the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force, Climate Change, Women's Rights, Education, and Prison Reform. Our task forces have worked to hold events, to advocate for legislation, and to advocate for policy changes. One of the things that I think we need to focus on is continuing to promote the events, promote the leadership opportunities that exist in our current task forces. This comes from reforms such as adding more leadership positions. Currently, this year we introduced task force chairs and vice chairs. I think it's important that we give more leadership opportunities, such as helping grow our social media account, which has been able to promote the events, promote the applications for our task forces over the past 2 years. So I think at the end of the day, it comes from using the task forces for what they're made for, which is supporting members, supporting their ability to grow, and supporting their ability to make a true, tangible impact within HSDA. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. I'll now pass it off to Hannah.
Thank you, Neil. If the program director candidates can turn their cameras off and the development director candidates can turn their cameras on, that'd be great. I'll give you like a second. Okay, so I'll read the question again and then also paste it in the chat before announcing the first candidate. The development director has a unique role in needing to understand multiple different systems and technologies, such as Action Network and fundraising sites, to ensure their term goes smoothly. How comfortable are you with these technologies, and what experience do you have in such operational work? And the first candidate is Ananya.
So my name is running for your 2025 to 2026 development director candidate. And this is a great question because you have to address multiple technologies like Action Network and fundraising sites, which we use voting, the voting polls, and we give our HSDA members updates through these sites. But I do think that it could be used further come to with local chapter help, and I think that I could play a big role in this just because I'm a local chapter leader myself, which means that I do know.
I believe there were some tech issues, so I'm going to transition it to, oh, is she back? Jen, can we start the time from when she was cut off? Thank you.
I think she's still like out of Wi-Fi or something. Like
Okay, until that's resolved, we will go to the next candidate and then we will give Ananya the time that she still has left later. Okay, so the next candidate is Eli.
Thank you, Hannah, and that's a great question. And I was going to start by saying that I've essentially had experience in this in the miniature equivalent of operating these programs as a state chair. But really, it's not so miniature because I've built up my state chapter from the ground up to become one of the most powerful and prolific in HSDA. And so the experience I will take to the job of development director will be to ensure that whether it's using Action Network or fundraising sites or any other form of communication that we use, we are sustainable and we are direct. Sustainable, we have to have consistency in our fundraising efforts, in our activity on our fundraising sites, and ensuring that our members, our state and local chapter leaders have access to Action Network as necessary. And directness, we have to make sure that when we're promoting fundraising efforts, promoting any other initiatives, promoting our development, our local chapter and our state chapter development, it has to be direct to all levels of HSDA, to all other relevant groups, our state parties, our county parties, college and young Dems, and making sure that we're getting our messages out so we can have more effective fundraising, more effective events, and programming, and more effective state and local development. Thank you.
Thank you, Eli. And we're going to circle back to Ananya.
Just want to make sure if everyone can like hear me okay, because my Wi-Fi is kind of bad. Okay. To what I was, because I locally on platforms like Google News can expand the channels on that, which could help me use Action because I am working towards consistently updating my chapter itself on that. And I would continue to do this for HSDA itself through using Action Network and fundraising sites because I know how important it is to fill out applications, which we also do in our school for our robotics team. So I am well with in order to create this as well. That's all I have to say for this question.
Thank you, Ananya. The next candidate is Celine.
Hello. So this is absolutely a super important question. and especially because there are so many websites that we use from Action Network to as well as fundraising sites. And I have 3 assets of experience to bring to this. So number 1, I act as a legislative intern for a local teachers union. And in that role, I've become very familiar with analyzing data. That was the main part of my job. So I'm very familiar with using Excel spreadsheets and Google spreadsheets in order to do that. And in addition to this, I am also an intern for the Bank of America program. And through that program, I worked locally with the Boys and Girls Club. And so I've gotten to use a lot of Microsoft Teams as well as Microsoft's other software in order to help track grants information and make sure that those are done on a timely manner and making sure that fundraising is as effective as possible. And in addition to this, the last experience I have with this is I do run my own nonprofit. So I have a lot of experience with fundraising sites. With my own nonprofit, I've raised thousands. So what I want to say with this is that I will take all of my experience, and I know previously members have mentioned issues with Action Network, as well as wanting more fundraising to be done. And I want to take my experience and to make sure that our members do have access to an action network that is as effective as possible, and to make sure that they do have access to fundraising that allows them to do what they need to do in order to continue our mission of making a DEM win overall.
Thank you, Celine. So that wraps up the first round. Yay. We're going to be transitioning into the second round, which is platform-specific questions, followed by the part 2, which is candidates asking each other questions. So yeah, we're going to start off with chair again. And this list is also randomized, and it's not a guarantee that it's the same as the list from the first round. The first candidate to be answering a question is Parker. Parker, your question is, network utilization is a key focus of your platform. How do you intend to tap into the potential of HSDA networks to better support each corner of our organization? And you have 1 minute 30.
Thank you, Hannah, for the question. And like you said, network utilization is the second key core pillar of my platform, and that's for a specific reason. I believe it's something very important, but I believe first educating HSDA's member to expand HSDA is key so that we can actually utilize our network effectively. So network utilization, it means talking with more DNC representatives. It means talking with local leaders, local elected leaders, state elected leaders, and working with all of those leaders to get financial support to build HSDA. Without money, HSDA can't grow to have the national infrastructure that we need to support our state and local chapters. And that's something I've worked hard for here in Kentucky is financial support. We've guaranteed $1,000 from the Kentucky Democratic Party for our state convention every year, and that's something I'm ready to bring to the national level and commit towards having the DNC formally make that. And then Jen, how much time do I have left? Okay. So bringing that nationally is something important to me because without money, we can't expand HSDA in every state and every county in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Parker. The next candidate is Zayed, if you can turn your camera on. Zayed, you mentioned integrating HSDA into the larger DNC flow of operations. What actions will you take to improve HSDA's visibility to party leadership this upcoming term?
Thank you for the question. So, I am someone who has very strong ties with the DNC. And what I know is that HSDA has the ability to strengthen those ties. My first thing I will do as chair is get on a call with DNC chair Ken Martin, along with, I apologize, I'm currently at my school's graduation. That's why the background noise. But the first thing HSDA will be setting up a meeting, our executive board, with the DNC's elected leadership. The reason for this is that HSDA does have a lot of power as members of the DNC, as an affiliate organization, and we need to be able to truly use that. As chair of HSDA, we will be expanding our presence at the DNC, whether that is training our members to run for state party seats, whether that is using chair appointments to get more HSDA members as DNC at large. HSDA can expand its presence with DNC by using the connections we currently have, by working with the pathways we've already built. There's a lot of work that we've already done that we just need to work on expanding. HSDA could truly be a powerhouse within the Democratic Party. Could truly be a powerhouse within the Democratic Party. All we need to do is truly put in the effort to making those connections and bring them to our membership. Another main thing that I want to focus on is bringing these connections and collaboration on the local level. Have our local chapters work with county parties. Have our states work with their state parties.
Thank you, Zayed. And the last candidate is Rashida. If you could turn your camera on. Rashida, Imagine is one of your guiding pillars. How will the programs and initiatives you imagine better support our diverse national membership?
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Hannah, again for that question. I think a really big part of my platform, which obviously is the letter I, Imagine, I think a lot of what I talked about, even during like my campaigning, was bridging the gaps between members in terms of not just having that connection that can be seen through just like the Slack channel or events that we have here and there, where the main focus isn't on them, but making sure that we have more events for them to bond and kind of create this community within HSDA. So there isn't any division, there is no kind of division between the levels of the organization, such as national, local, state, for example. So I think we could do this by a few things that I mentioned, like monthly game nights or movie nights, like things kind of how we did with the presidential debate watch party kind of back in November. I mean, sorry, back in the beginning of the term. And I think doing this and also having more opportunities for members to connect, such as Slack channels created for specific issues, would be really beneficial. In terms of specifically highlighting like the diversity within our organization, I've really tried to expand on that as communications director by getting caucuses featured on our Instagram page whenever they have an event, and also by ensuring that they can be featured on the podcast whenever that's coordinated with my multimedia directors. So I really want to continue that and ensure that these caucuses are being spotlighted at different times, such as like throughout different weeks or months, and that we really make this a big part of our organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashida. And seeing that there were no questions submitted to these three candidates, we'll be moving into the vice chairs. So I'm going to be passing it off to Neil.
Thank you, Hannah. I asked that all vice chair candidates turn on their cameras. Perfect. This first question will be going to Noam. And again, these are the platform-specific questions. Noam, your platform actively highlights a need to maintain ideological independence, especially against the grain of DNC leadership and internal party politics. How will these values shape the way that you lead as vice chair?
It's not exactly ideological independence, but more being able to call out the party when we, like collectively as a membership, believe that they have made a mistake. For example, removing David Hogg, I could tell like just from the Slack channel that pretty much everyone who was commenting on it was not exactly happy about it. And we need to, as an organization, be willing to both simultaneously be a core part of the party, but also any healthy party needs to be able to have elements that question itself, and we need to be able to question the party and hold them to account if we want to have a strong party, especially leading into the midterms and the next presidential election. We need to be willing to call out the party when they have made a mistake. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will be going to Renu. Renu, civic education is one of the core pillars of your platform. What does expanding civic education in HSDA mean to you?
Thank you for the question. Civic education is very, very important to me, and I believe that we must expand it because without civic education, there is no informed electorate. And as teenagers, we are the next voters, and right now we are the change makers. We are doing this grassroots advocacy. We are doing this lobbying to ensure that our country can be a better place. And I believe that we cannot take a stance on anything without first educating ourselves. And a part of that was initially from the LA Regional Cabinet. We did a little series about informing people about current events. And that was so, so crucial to ensuring that people had a common baseline so that all of our opinions could be formed on the same foundation of facts. And I also believe that civic education is not a partisan issue. And I know so many things in politics today can be divided into partisan like politics, but civic education is so bipartisan in order to ensure that all youth have a voice and are able to understand what's going on in their country so they can take action and they can react the way they choose to with HSDA in general. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Santana, you are next on the list. Santana, your question is, youth mobilization is a key element of your platform. How do you intend to use leadership to mobilize state and local leaders across the country?
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much, Neil, for the question. Again, as a regional director and local chapter leader, I know that we're doing the work on the ground each day. And mobilizing young people is really the core of our movement. So as vice chair, I will provide states, whether that be larger states and more populated states, as well as more rural states, or even those that don't even have active chapters, as well as local chapters in rural areas and underrepresented parts of our organization with the tools they need to be successful in their organizational structures and movements in their individual chapters and cities and areas in the 2026 upcoming election. I will also ensure that our local chapters director and local chapters leaders are well informed about what decisions we're making at the national level, to ensure that they can stay in the loop and sort of know what is happening with our organization. So I will prioritize one-on-one check-ins with all of our leaders, state chapter chairs and vice chairs, and create feedback lines to the executive board.
Thank you, Santana. Tyler, you are the next up for a question. Tyler, your platform highlights a national need to financially support our local and state chapter leaders. How do you plan to spearhead these efforts as vice chair?
Thank you so much for the question. So this comes down to our need for more funding. One of my biggest accomplishments of this year was being able to talk to our DNC candidates earlier this year about the need for more funding for HSDA. And one thing that I was able to talk to them about is how they are all committed to ensuring that HSDA receives the funding necessary to run our programs. Not only that, but to continue to be involved in our elections. We have the 2026 midterm coming up in just a few short months. We need to work with the DNC, and as vice chair, I will make it one of my first actions to reach out to our DNC chair, Ken Martin, as well as our DNC VC, to make sure that we are having discussions with our finance director, our programs director, our national chair, and both VCs to ensure that we are looking at all of our states, their needs, our chapters and their needs, and ensuring that each of those entities receive the funding necessary to be successful for the next year and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Millen, you have the next question. Millen, your platform emphasizes a need to support local chapter leaders as you are one yourself. What is the first initiative you would spearhead to achieve these goals?
Okay, so on day one, as I mentioned before, I intend to establish the Council of Local Chapters, as I did in Maryland, so that we can have direct representation for local chapters in HSDA when it comes to deciding national priorities or specific initiatives. I also want to make sure that we're meeting one-on-one with new local chapter leaders so that we can ensure that we're guiding them through the process of creating a local chapter. I also want to establish a local chapter mentorship program so that we can pair new local chapter leaders with experienced local chapter leaders that have experienced similar issues and are in similar situations. We also need to actually get local chapter grants done so that local chapter leaders can have the resources that they need to make an impact. I also want to, from the national level, work with local chapters on programming, including through spearheading 50+ voter registration drives across the country, and also hosting town halls and really just doing as much work we can in collaboration with local chapters, because we do need to grow our movement and our organization with a grassroots perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Millen. Reed, you have the next question. Reed, in your platform, you state that national growth is your #1 priority. What does national growth look like to you, and what actions will you take to ensure that it happens?
Yes, thank you, Neil. National growth looks like to me our local chapters growing vibrantly across the country. And processes I have to make that happen are first and foremost the Chair's Guide, which is a comprehensive guide that goes deep into all the resources you're going to need to start, run, and grow a local chapter. Things like social media toolkits, growth toolkits, messaging toolkits, connections with other HSDA leaders who might be willing to help out and to mentor you, connections to HSDA alumni in your area who might be willing to mentor you and help out, guides on how to work with your state and local Democratic Party to get the resources you need, and ways to work through issues that you might encounter. And then also I have the Chair's Forum, which is a quarterly Zoom call between the National Executive Board and local chapter chairs so that they can get with us and say, here are the problems I'm facing. How can I get around these? And we can provide solutions, or other chapter leaders can provide solutions. And I think that as we're working together as a national team with local leaders from across the country, we can share strategies that work and build a coalition of youth who can help us flip some seats and deliver some big wins for the Democratic Party next cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Isabel, you have the next question. Isabel, rural outreach is a focus for your platform, which you hope to address. How have your past experiences positioned you to support rural leaders across our network?
Okay, thank you for the question. For some past context, I am the current Hawaii State Chair, and I've been serving as the Hawaii State Chair since 2022. So this is going into my third year. So some of the things we've done in the past is being unconventional with a lot of the programming and events that we do. And what I mean by that is a lot of the times when you think of an organization that involves politics, you think that one of the only things that we do is interacting with politicians and going to our party, which are all really great things, but it's also really important to do other things as well that is more accessible to people that live in rural outreach areas, especially for people that come from like smaller areas that don't have as much of a political presence. So for example, one of the things we've done in the past was we've gone to Ho'ikaulea, which is like a nature reserve in Hawaii. It is a mountain like on one of the islands. And one of the things we did was we interacted with a lot of researchers and scientists to help figure out, what can we do to help support the climate and help support native species so we can expand on our environmental awareness. And that's a really big thing in a lot of rural communities that have like really strong environmental presences. And another thing we've also done too is collaborate with libraries as well to talk about the importance of why education is important and the effects that book bans will negatively have on academic presences. So I think just being unconventional with the things that you do and expanding outside of politics and going more to the advocacy part is really important, especially for HSDA because we are a grassroots organization. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to be moving into the portion where candidates get to ask each other questions. As a reminder, you had to have submitted the form that we emailed you to be qualified to ask a question. Anybody who submitted the form, their question was qualified. So if you're a vice chair and you have a question for another candidate, please raise your hand now so you can ask it. Are there any questions on the floor at this time? Perfect. Isabel.
Thank you. This question is for Tyler. So the thing I wanted to ask for Tyler is, I know that Tyler has served as the National Committee Coordinator this year and has served in past years as well that he's mentioned in his platform. So I just want to ask, how will you apply your experiences as National Committee Coordinator to help support your role as Vice Chair, since one of the primary focuses as Vice Chair is to chair the National Committee?
Absolutely. Thank you
Tyler,
so
you have 1 minute to respond. Sorry.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. As you mentioned, National Committee Coordinator and the National Vice Chairs have a very unique and tight relationship because the National Committee Coordinator is responsible for running National Committee, whereas the National Vice Chair is responsible for chairing the committee. Not only that, but they're responsible for working together on a host of issues. For me, whether it was being a co-architect of the 50+ plan or working with the vice chairs in both years to ensure that National Committee runs as effectively and efficiently as possible, I stood tall then and I am ready to stand tall now. I stand here today as the only candidate with hands-on experience with the position. This is not new to me. This is true to me and I am ready to hit the ground running on day one. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Reed, you have the floor.
This question is for Milan. What is your strategic plan to mobilize young high school Democrats ahead of the 2026 midterms?
Thank you for the question. We have to mobilize for elections this year and the midterms to protect our futures from MAGA extremists and build a party that works for all of us. That's why, as vice chair, I'll build the largest mobilization effort in HSDA history, from organizing 50+ voter registration drives to town halls, biweekly phone banks, and actually organizing protests and building programming that allows our members to serve as leaders and organizers. We need to take a grassroots approach to organizing, so we need to triple the number of local chapters and activate all 50 states while actually supporting our local and state chapters with new guides and trainings, designated representation for local chapters through the Council of Chapter Leaders, and chapter grants. While we do this, we need to ensure that we are reaching all communities and allowing all members to get involved. That's why we'll appoint congressional outreach directors for competitive districts, demographic outreach directors, bring back the expansion committee and reactivate the campaigns committee, have rolling applications for committees and task forces so that there are opportunities open for HSDA members all year, and connect members to campaign and legislation.
Thank you, Milan. I'll now open the floor to any more questions at this time. A reminder, if the candidate has already been asked a question, they cannot be asked another question. Are there any more questions at this time?
Sorry, I can't raise my hand, but I have. Can I?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So my question is for Reed. What resources would you work to create to better support local chapters?
Yeah, thanks, Milan. As I've been able to talk about during this forum a lot, and I'm actually really excited that I got the opportunity to do so. I have resources like the Chair's Guide and the Chair's Forum and State Strategies. Other resources, though, would be fundraising toolkits and providing fundraising from national for our local chapters. And then also something I actually was presented to me by my mentor this week is connecting our current HSDA members with alumni from the college Democrats, the young Democrats, and the high school Democrats in their area who might be willing to bring them up in the party and help them become more effective leaders and more effective activists. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. Are there any more questions at this time? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, I'll now pass it off to Hannah.
Thank you, Neil. I ask that the vice chair candidates turn your cameras off and the comms director candidates turn their cameras on. For2, empowerment and accessibility are two focuses of your platform. What initiatives will you prioritize to help you accomplish these ideals? And you have 1 minute 30 for this question.
Thank you so much for that question. Yeah, that's been a really big pillar of my platform. Regarding empowerment, I'd like to create something called Voices of HSDA, which I talked about a lot on my Instagram page and within my platform, where members can share initiatives that they care about using our platform to get their voices out. I'd also like to create more on-ground opportunities for people across state lines. Additionally, I would like to start using our TikTok more frequently with starting something called TikTok takeovers, where local chapters can film little vlogs of events they have so that they're able to use our platform and share the ideas that matter to them. I'd also like to start an initiative called This Week in America, which is basically a news rundown of the news that happened regarding America and the US. I would like local members to be able to lead this initiative and be able to post on our TikTok page. I'd also like to create a collaboration toolkit, which boils down to pre-made Canva templates, submitting to national forums to help get that out faster, a collaborations calendar, and local spotlights, as well as showcasing all the art and writing and photography that our members use. For accessibility, I'd like to create multilingual posts, which is something I started creating within my campaign, as well as using alt text, video, captions, inclusive visuals, and dyslexia-friendly font, which is something I didn't even think about before I was working on a local campaign. And so that's something I've used within my campaigning as well. I'd also like to connect with local chapters and caucuses to get their information out. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate is Ashba. Ashva, one of your priorities is to visit HSDA's website infrastructure. How will this project uniquely address the challenges HSDA currently faces? And you have 1 minute 30.
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge that HSDA faces is disconnect from both its members and outreach. So, as the only candidate who has already developed websites within HSDA before, for example, I've made a website for my caucus, the Hindu caucus, as chair of the caucus. I already have the experience needed to rebuild our website. And what we really need is cohesion at every level of HSDA, from local to national. And as the only candidate who's actually served from the local to national level, I know exactly what we need to fix our issues. So I think the main way that redesigning our website is going to completely transform how HSDA operates is it's going to give one place for all of our members to go. All new members will have this one location where they can see every event that's happening. Another way that I'm going to be doing this, which I mentioned through my platform, is the National Bulletin. So this will be a weekly message both on our website and in our Slack channel that will outline every single event and like priority that's happening in all states, caucuses, and at the national level. And this is really needed because we need to inform our members. HSDA for too long has taken the back seat on informing our members and making sure that we're committed to outreach and ensuring that new members actually have the resources to thrive. And the first way we have to do that is through communications. And I think that's what I will deliver for HSDA. And I think my experience qualifies me to do that.
Thank you. And moving into the questions part of this. So all the questions that were submitted prior to this meeting were approved. So if you did have a question, you can ask it now. Yes, Batu.
This question is directed for Ashva. So last week, my campaigning HSDA Instagram account was shadow banned because I was responding to too many DMs and posting too many stories, and I had to recover it within 24 hours, despite Instagram's lack of direct support because they don't have a phone number you can call. So hypothetically, if HSDS Instagram was taken down or blocked or shadow banned, what are the first technical, communicative, and reputational steps that you would take within the first few hours to contain the issue, all while protecting engagement and credibility and managing internal panic, all while navigating the limited platform access and vague support?
Yeah, so I've already had the experience of navigating shadow bans and other issues with Instagram. For example, I've ran Illinois High School Democrats Instagram account, and that was actually the most active Instagram in all of HSDA for state chapters. And I've actually experienced shadow bans before, but I've already known how to like prevent this. And the main way to prevent this is from like making sure that you don't follow enough people in a specific time frame. And actually, what Instagram like prefers is that you use the web version, which is something really important because when you use the mobile version, it often detects stuff like that as spam. So what I will do as communications director is ensure that I use the web version because not only does that prevent spam, but that also increases the quality of our posts. And additionally, I will post our graphics and other stuff at times that offer the most engagement. So definitely not at night. We need to make sure that our engagement is spot on. So I'll use the analytics that Instagram provides to find the best time. So usually that's around 3.
Any more questions in the floor? Yes, you can go.
Yeah, so this question is for Fatu. HSDA offers various leadership positions from state exec boards to national committees. What previous positions have you held within HSDA and how will it help you for your role as comms director?
Hi, Ashva. Thank you so much for that question. So yeah, I've been involved in HSDA for the past 2 years, and it's been an amazing experience for me. Locally within my state chapter, I was on our planning committee for our youth summit, which was a summit where we were able to get leaders to be able to speak to our members. And I was basically involved with communicating with certain leaders in certain state organizations and groups to be able to allow them to come to our event, and we were able to have a successful event with over 100 plus students. Additionally, I've worked on local, state, and national campaigns, as well as the Biden election back when this was before HSDA, but I was volunteering for that with phone bookings and canvassing. And then I was also with the volunteering for the Kamala Waltz election. I worked with a lot of local elections to help design graphics and marketing, and as well as doing on-ground events. Thank you.
Any more questions in the queue? Okay, seeing that there are none, I will now pass it back to Neil.
Thank you, Hannah. I ask that all program director candidates turn on their cameras. Okay, perfect. Our first question will be going to Matthew. Matthew, your platform highlights the importance of engaging local chapter leaders in the creation of national level programming. How do you intend to increase their ability to influence national programming this upcoming term?
Yeah. So over the past year, that's definitely been a focus of my term as programs director, starting the local chapters HSDA toolkit, as well as emphasizing events that are centered towards local chapter trainings. I think a lot of this comes down to some of the things that I've learned over the year is really engaging and meeting our local chapters where they're at. I think it's time that we focus on making HSDA events as accessible as possible. That means recording them. That means hosting them in Spanish, hosting them in different languages, as well as text to speech. I think it's important that we engage our members where they're at. I want to expand the HSDA toolkit to allow our local chapters to really be able to learn from the tools that we've developed over the year, as well as hearing directly from our local chapters by establishing a local leaders council to directly understand the needs of our local chapters. All of our local chapters are different. We have such a diverse organization that it's time that we have a forum and a place where our local leaders can get their voices heard on the national level. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. This next question will be for Amanda. Amanda, you highlight a need for young people to mobilize for their upcoming midterm election season. What do you intend to do to accomplish this goal as programs director?
Okay, so as programs director, I want to make sure that we don't repeat what happened in the 2024 election, and that instead in the 2026 midterms we have massive blue victories throughout the country. And one of the ways that I'm going to do this is by first establishing a cultural competency program that will teach members how to reach out to different members without being insensitive. I also want to create a sort of like internship match program that matches members up with candidates for certain races, and they could connect with them and help boost their campaign if they're in the same region or area, like knock on doors and actually get out there and mobilize so that constituents actually know to get out and vote, not just in the presidential election but also in midterms. I also want to create a Politics for All program that disseminates and creates digestible content so that members know how to incorporate that knowledge into their efforts to help elect more Democrats in the 2026 midterms, and also revitalize the Multilingual Advisory Committee so that we can reach not just English-speaking audiences, but other languages too.
Thank you, Amanda. Our final question for this program session will be going to Ankita. Ankita, HSDA is one of the nation's leading organizations in terms of geographic diversity. Within your platform, you mentioned the creation of HSDA Tour. How do you intend to make this happen, both logistically and creatively?
Yeah, so this definitely is one of my hugest priorities. So the HSDA Tour would essentially be me working with state leaders, regional directors, and the vice chairs at large to create a way in which people that we could go to areas local to ourselves and actually get out there. Like, for example, I would love to see more like DNC-esque content. Like, for example, I saw that there was a highlight for the DNC this year. And that was very similar to what I was envisioning, where we would actually go out, talk to people, hear from others, but in various different locations. So for example, Neil, you're in Louisiana, right? So it wouldn't be as hard for you to possibly go to Texas and help canvass with a race or something like that. And for me, I'm in Georgia. So it wouldn't be entirely impossible for me to go up to Tennessee or South Carolina or North Carolina or even my home state to canvass and show that I'm getting out there. And it doesn't only have to be me. If other people have the ability to, and we have the funding for it, which I will ensure that we do, many people can also come and mobilize in that way with NAT staffers, with chairs of state chairs, and it would become a huge movement in which we show that the youth power actually means something and that we're willing to go anywhere to make sure that it does happen, especially in key races that are coming up in Virginia and New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankita. I'll now pass it off to Hannah.
Thanks, Neil. I ask that the development director candidates turn your cameras on. Celine, the Resistance Resource Hub and Leadership Symposiums are just some of the initiatives you propose in your platform. How will these programs allow you to fulfill your duties as development director to the best of your ability?
Sorry, could you repeat the first half of the question?
Yes. The Resistance Resource Hub and Leadership Symposiums are just some of the initiatives you propose in your platform. Do you want me to read the question too?
Oh, yes.
How will these programs allow you to fulfill your duties as development director to the best of your ability?
Absolutely. So, a lot of the thinking behind these programs is making sure that our members have the resources they need, especially going into the 2026 midterms and really fighting for a Democratic win overall. And so, for example, the leadership symposiums, they really aim to make sure that we have a new way of fundraising within HSDA outside of just phone calling our old members. And this is an opportunity for us to connect with the big leaders of our world and to convince them that we are the next future and to convince them that we do deserve that funding. And then another aspect of this is the Resistance Resource Hub. So, the Resistance Resource Hub was inspired a lot by the LA ICE riots, as well as the discrimination against women and also Islamophobia across our nation right now with the Trump administration. So, the goal of the Resistance Resource Hub is to provide those resources to our members so that they can be prepared to fight back, especially local resources. So, for example, the ACLU of Los Angeles, highlighting that as a resource that we can fight with and also reach out to for support. So this would really make sure that our members do have those resources and do have that support.
Thank you. Eli, your platform highlights an urgent need to expand HSDA's reach, especially to rural America. What is your plan to uniquely address the needs of rural and red chapter leaders across our network?
Well, thank you, Hannah. And as I talked about in the first town hall, and as you know, I have a program called MORE, Membership Opportunities, Relationships, Engagement. And the reason I know I can implement that program is because that's what we've done in Montana. In just 1 year, we've built up Montana High School Democrats to be one of the strongest state chapters in the country. And to your point about expanding membership and chapter activity in rural America and in red states, that is something I obviously have a great deal of experience in. Montana is the 8th smallest state in the country. We voted 20 points for Trump, and we only have 8 towns that are larger than 10,000 people, not 100,000, 10,000. And so expanding our membership to those places is something I have a great deal of experience in. Just this past month, we welcomed 3 new chapters in Montana. All of them are in Republican voting counties. And so some of the key strategies that I've employed to achieve those goals of expanding rural membership that I will use for the job of development director include reaching out to our county and state party leaders, reaching out to college and young Dems to find members, as well as reaching out to other progressive organizations, and empowering our local chapter leaders and state leaders. We can't simply have members be volunteers. We have to have them become leaders and feel empowered and feel heard. And we have to recognize the different strategies that must be employed in rural America versus urban America and in different parts of our country.
Thank you. And then is Ananya in this meeting room? I recognize she was having some technical difficulties earlier. Okay. Seeing that she is not here, we will be wrapping it up. Thank you everyone for coming today, both YouTube live stream viewers and then the candidates in this town hall. This is our last town hall, so if you were, whether you were at the first one or both of these or just this one, congratulations on finishing your town hall experience. Yeah. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night,
night.
all.
Good night.
Good night.